Mia was a girl with a heart as big as the sky. She loved to draw colorful pictures and sing silly songs to her teddy bear. But even with all her cheer, a quiet sadness often settled in her home. It wasn't because of bad weather or scraped knees. It was because of the grown-up voices. Mia's mom and dad argued a lot. Their words weren't always loud, but they were sharp, like little needles pricking the air. Every morning, Mia would wake up hoping for a day filled with sunshine and smiles. But often, the first sounds she heard were hushed, tense talks from the kitchen. It made the cereal taste a little less sweet, and the cartoons on TV seem a little less funny. She wished her parents could laugh together, like the families in her storybooks. Instead, they often sat at opposite ends of the dinner table, barely looking at each other. Mia tried her best to be a good girl, thinking maybe if she was extra quiet or helped with chores, it would make things better. She would tidy her toys without being asked, and even tried to make her own bed, though the blanket always ended up a bit lopsided. But no matter how hard she tried, the arguing continued. It was like a big, invisible cloud hanging over their house, making everyone feel a little bit wet and gloomy, even on the brightest days. This constant tension made Mia feel a deep ache in her chest, a quiet longing for peace and happiness in her own home. She wished for a magic wand to wave away all the frowns and bring back the smiles. In the midst of the quiet sadness that often filled Mia's house, there was one bright, bouncy spot: Sparky. Sparky wasn't just any puppy. He was Mia's best friend, her furry shadow, and the one creature who could always make her giggle, even when her parents' hushed arguments echoed through the rooms. He had soft, floppy ears and eyes that sparkled like little beads of mischief. When he wagged his tail, his whole body wiggled with pure joy. Sparky loved to cuddle. He would curl up beside Mia on the sofa, his warm little body a comforting weight against her side. Sometimes he would even try to squeeze under her chin, letting out tiny puppy snores. These moments were Mia's favorite, a cozy bubble of peace away from the grown-up worries. With Sparky, she didn't have to pretend to be brave. She could just be herself, a girl who loved her puppy very much. But Sparky's favorite game was chasing balls. Mia would throw a bright red bouncy ball across the yard, and Sparky would zoom after it, a blur of brown and white fur. He'd pounce on it, then trot back, his tail wagging furiously, ready for another round. His playful barks and happy yips filled the air with a sound Mia rarely heard from her parents: pure, uncomplicated joy. When Sparky was around, the invisible cloud of sadness seemed to lift, just for a little while. He was her secret weapon against the gloom, a tiny, four-legged bundle of sunshine who reminded her that even in a divided home, happiness could still find its way in. Sparky was her anchor, her safe place, her furry little heart. Mia and Sparky were playing their favorite game, chasing the bright red ball in the backyard. Sparky zipped and pounced, his joyful barks filling the air. Mia laughed, forgetting for a moment the quiet sadness inside her house. She threw the ball one last time, a bit too hard, and it bounced near the back gate. Mia ran to get it, but before she could reach it, her mom called from inside. "Mia, can you help me for a second?" Mia, wanting to be helpful, quickly ran inside. She thought she had closed the gate tightly, but in her hurry, she had only pulled it shut, not latched it properly. It wobbled a little, then slowly, quietly swung open just enough for a curious little puppy to peek through. Sparky, still full of energy from playing, saw the small gap. His nose twitched, smelling exciting new smells from the world beyond the yard. With a quick wag of his tail, he pushed his head through the opening, then his whole body. He didn't mean to run away. He was just exploring, chasing after a new smell, a fluttering butterfly, or maybe just a new adventure. When Mia came back outside, the red ball was still there, but Sparky was gone. Her heart gave a sudden, hard thump. "Sparky?" she called, her voice small. She walked to the gate, her tummy doing flip-flops, when she saw it open. She looked left, then right, her eyes scanning the street. No Sparky. Her happy laughter turned into a tremble. "Sparky, where are you?" she cried, her voice cracking. A cold knot of fear tightened in her chest. Her best friend, her furry sunshine, was gone, and Mia was very, very sad and worried. Mia ran into the house, her eyes full of tears, her voice shaky. "Mom, Dad, Sparky's gone. The gate was open." She hoped they would stop everything, hug her tight, and promise to find her puppy. But when she found them, they were in the living room, their voices tangled in. The days after Sparky went missing were a blur of tears and quiet despair for Mia. The sadness that had always been in her home grew bigger, swallowing up all the light. She stopped drawing her colorful pictures, and her silly songs faded away. She barely ate, and her usually bright eyes looked tired and dull. The loss of Sparky, combined with the constant arguments between her parents, felt like a heavy blanket pressing down on her. One morning, Mia felt too weak to even get out of bed. Her head hurt, her throat was sore, and she felt hot all over. Her mom, seeing how pale and still Mia was, finally put aside her worries and called the doctor. The doctor came to their house. He listened to Mia's chest, looked in her ears, and gently felt her forehead. He spoke to Mia's parents in a quiet voice, but Mia could still hear bits and pieces. "She's very run down," he said. "Her body is tired, and her heart is sad." He explained that Mia wasn't just sick with a cold or a cough. Her spirit was hurting too. "She needs a lot of rest," the doctor told them. "But more than anything, Mia needs to be happy to get better. She needs peace and joy." Mia's parents looked at each other, their faces serious. The doctor's words hung in the air, a stark reminder of how much their own unhappiness was affecting their precious daughter. Mia, lying in bed, felt a pang of longing. How could she be happy when her best friend was gone and her home felt so broken? It seemed like an impossible task. Mia lay in her bed, feeling small and weak. Her parents sat on either side of her, their faces etched with worry. They were quieter now, their arguments hushed by the sound of Mia's soft, shallow breaths. The doctor's words, "She needs to be happy to get better," echoed in the silent room. But happiness felt miles away, like a distant star. Mia slowly opened her eyes, looking first at her mom, then at her dad. Their faces were blurry, but she could see the love and fear in their eyes. She knew they were scared, and that made her feel a little brave. She gathered all her strength, just enough to speak. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Dad." They leaned closer, their hearts pounding. "Yes, sweetie," her mom said, her voice trembling. "I have one wish," Mia said, her voice so soft it was almost lost. I want to see Sparky one more time." A tear slipped down her mom's cheek. Her dad's strong hand gently squeezed Mia's tiny one. They looked at each other over Mia's head, a silent understanding passing between them. Mia's simple wish, spoken with such fragile hope, hit them harder than any argument ever had. It wasn't for a new toy, or a trip to the park, or even for them to stop fighting. It was just for her lost puppy. In that moment, the weight of their own disagreements felt small and unimportant compared to the immense pain in their daughter's heart. Mia closed her eyes again, her wish hanging in the air, a plea for comfort, a plea for her best friend. Mia's whisper, like a tiny bird's song in the quiet room, broke through the wall that had grown between her parents. Her mom's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Her dad's eyes, usually clouded with frustration, suddenly cleared, seeing everything with a painful new light. It wasn't about who was right or wrong anymore, or about chores or money, or any of the countless things they had argued about. It was about Mia. They stepped out of Mia's room, leaving her to rest, but the silence between them was different now. It wasn't the heavy, angry silence they usually shared. This was a silence filled with a shared understanding, a deep, aching regret. "She just wants Sparky," Mia's mom said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's all she wants." Her dad nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the floor. "We've been so busy fighting," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "We didn't even see how much she was hurting." They remembered Mia's quiet attempts to make them happy, her little drawings, her forced smiles. They remembered how they had brushed off her tears when Sparky first disappeared, too caught up in their own unhappiness. The doctor's words came back to them. "Her body is tired, and her heart is sad." And then, "Mia needs to be happy to get better." They finally understood that their constant arguing hadn't just made them unhappy, it had poisoned the very air Mia breathed. It had pushed Sparky away, and now it was making their daughter sick. The realization hit them like a wave, washing away their anger, and leaving behind only a profound sadness for what they had done to their family. They knew, in that moment, that everything had to change. The heavy realization of their mistakes hung in the air, but this time, it didn't push Mia's parents apart. Instead, it pulled them closer. They looked at each other, not with anger or blame, but with a shared, urgent purpose. "We have to find him," Mia's mom said, her voice firm, no longer shaky with tears. "For Mia." Her dad nodded without a moment's hesitation. "We will," he promised. "We'll find Sparky." It was a simple promise, but it felt bigger than any they had made in a long time. It was a promise to their daughter, and a promise to each other. Right then, they made a silent pact. No more arguing, no more sharp words. Mia needed them, and they needed to be a team again. All the old fights, all the hurt feelings, suddenly seemed so small and silly. What truly mattered was Mia's happiness, her health, and bringing her beloved puppy home. They started planning right away. "We'll check the local shelters first," Mia's mom suggested, her brow furrowed in thought. "And then we'll make posters." "Good idea," her dad agreed. "I'll print them out tonight. We'll put his picture on every lamppost in town if we have to." His voice held a new determination, a strength that Mia hadn't heard in ages. For the first time in what felt like forever, Mia's parents were talking to each other kindly, listening and working together. Their hands, which had so often been clenched in frustration, now moved with a united purpose. The cloud of gloom in their home began to lift, replaced by a glimmer of hope. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to do whatever it took, side by side, to bring Sparky back and, with him, the light back into Mia's eyes. With their new resolve, Mia's parents sprang into action. They printed out bright, colorful signs with Sparky's picture and the words, "Lost Puppy, Please Help," in big letters. They stapled them to lampposts and taped them to shop windows, each sign a beacon of their hope. Then, they went door to door, talking to every neighbor. "Have you seen a small brown and white puppy?" Mia's mom would ask, holding up a picture of Sparky. Her dad would stand right beside her, adding details about Sparky's playful personality. People who had only seen them argue before were surprised to see them working together so calmly, so kindly. Their search expanded beyond their street. They walked through every park, calling Sparky's name. They drove slowly down every street, their eyes scanning bushes and sidewalks. "Maybe he went this way," Mia's dad would say, pointing to a path. "Could be," her mom would reply. "Let's check the area near the old oak tree." They talked to each other in soft, helpful tones, no longer snapping or blaming. They were a team, focused on one goal. The search was long and tiring. They felt their feet ache and their voices grow hoarse, but they didn't give up. Each day they would come home, weary, but not defeated, and then plan for the next day's search. They knew Mia was waiting, and the thought of her sad, pale face kept them going. They weren't just looking for a lost puppy. They were looking for a way to heal their family, one careful step and one kind word at a time. This shared mission was slowly mending the broken pieces of their own hearts, too. Days turned into a week, and then more days passed. Mia's parents were tired, but they refused to give up. Each morning, they would promise Mia, "We'll find him today, sweetie." One afternoon, after putting up another lost puppy sign near the edge of town, Mia's mom remembered a small animal shelter she had seen tucked away behind some trees. "Let's just try there," she said to Mia's dad, "just in case." They drove to the shelter, a little building with a big yard full of happy barks. As they walked inside, a friendly lady smiled at them. "Can I help you?" she asked. Mia's mom pulled out the picture of Sparky. "We're looking for our puppy," she said, her voice full of hope and a little bit of fear. The lady looked at the picture, and then her eyes lit up. "Oh, you mean the little brown and white one? He's a lively one," she chuckled. "We found him a few days ago, wandering near the old mill. He was a bit scared, but perfectly fine." Mia's parents' hearts leaped. They followed the lady to a row of kennels, and there he was, a small, familiar bundle of fur, sitting up and looking at them with those sparkling, mischievous eyes. As soon as he saw them, Sparky's tail started to wag, slowly at first, then faster and faster, thumping against the kennel floor like a happy drum. He whimpered with joy, pressing his nose against the wire, desperate to get out. "Sparky!" Mia's mom cried, tears filling her eyes. Her dad reached through the bars to scratch his ear. Sparky licked his fingers excitedly. He was safe, sound, and so happy to see them. The relief that flooded over Mia's parents was enormous, a warm, bright feeling that chased away all the worry and tiredness. They had found him. Mia's parents hurried home with Sparky, their hearts full of a joyful secret. They wanted to surprise Mia, to give her the best medicine of all, her beloved puppy. Sparky, in turn, was practically bouncing with excitement in the back seat, letting out happy little yips and wags. They quietly opened the front door and tiptoed into Mia's room. She was still sleeping, her little face pale and drawn, her breathing soft. Her mom gently nudged her awake. "Mia, sweetie," she whispered, "we have a visitor." Mia slowly opened her eyes, blinking against the soft light. She looked up, and then her eyes grew wide. Sitting on the edge of her bed, tail wagging like crazy, was Sparky! His little body wiggled with pure delight, and he let out a joyful bark, a sound Mia hadn't heard in what felt like forever. "Sparky!" Mia cried, a gasp of disbelief and pure happiness escaping her lips. Her arm shot out, and Sparky, with a leap, landed right in her embrace. He licked her face, his tail a blur, showering her with the warmth and love she had missed so terribly. Mia hugged him tight, burying her face in his soft fur, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. And then, a sight her parents hadn't seen in weeks, a huge, bright smile spread across Mia's face. It was a smile that reached her eyes, making them sparkle like sunshine after a long storm. It was a smile that lit up the whole room, chasing away all the shadows and gloom. Her parents watched, their own eyes wet with happy tears, knowing they had done something truly wonderful. Their little girl was smiling again. With Sparky back in her arms, Mia's recovery began. It wasn't like magic, where she was instantly better, but each day brought a little more sparkle back to her eyes. Sparky rarely left her side. He would nap curled at her feet, his warm fur, a comforting presence. When Mia felt strong enough, she would gently toss his favorite red ball, and he would bring it back with soft nudges, careful not to bump her. Her parents, too, had changed. The sharp words and tense silences were gone. Instead, the house was filled with gentle murmurs, soft laughter, and the happy pitter-patter of Sparky's paws. Mia's mom would sit on her bed, reading her stories, while her dad would bring her warm soup and tell her silly jokes. They talked to each other with kindness, planning meals and quiet activities for Mia. always asking each other for ideas. Slowly, Mia's appetite returned. She started to draw again, filling her paper with pictures of Sparky and her smiling family. Her voice grew stronger, and soon she was singing her silly songs once more, Sparky often joining in with a happy howl. The invisible cloud of sadness that had once hung over their home was gone, replaced by a feeling of warmth and safety. Mia was surrounded by love. Her mom and dad were there, truly there, not just in body but in spirit, talking to her, listening to her, and making sure she felt loved every single moment. And, of course, Sparky was always by her side, a furry bundle of pure joy, licking away any lingering sadness. With every passing day, Mia grew stronger, her heart healing, her spirit brightening, all thanks to her loving family and her playful puppy. The change in Mia's home was like watching a gray sky turn bright blue. It didn't happen all at once, but little by little, the happiness grew. Her parents had learned a very important lesson, that their arguments hurt not just each other, but Mia most of all. So they made a special effort to talk to each other differently. Instead of shouting or getting mad, they learned to listen. If one of them felt upset, they would take a deep breath and say, "Can we talk about this calmly?" Or, "I feel sad when that happens." Mia often heard them talking things out in the kitchen, not with angry voices, but with quiet, thoughtful words. They even started to ask Mia for her ideas, making her feel like an important part of the family, not just a little girl trying to hide from the grown-up noise. Family dinners became a time for sharing happy news from their day, not for tense silence. They played board games together, Mia and Sparky often cheering on her mom or dad. Laughter filled the rooms where arguments once echoed. The house felt lighter, warmer, and full of peace. Mia's mom and dad understood that a family isn't just people living in the same house. It's about loving each other, caring for each other, and making sure everyone feels safe and happy. Their home, once divided by sharp words, was now glued back together with understanding, patience, and lots of love. It truly became a happy place again, a cozy nest where Mia, Sparky, and her parents could all feel safe and loved. The best part of the family's new happiness was their walks. Almost every afternoon, after Mia finished her homework and her parents were done with their work, they would all go outside. Mia would hold Sparky's leash, her hand firm but gentle. Sparky would prance ahead, his tail wagging like a happy flag, sniffing every interesting patch of grass. They would walk to the park, or around the block, or sometimes even explore a new path in the woods nearby. As they walked, they talked. Mia would tell them about her day at school, about the funny things her friends said, or a new drawing she was planning. Her mom and dad would listen carefully, asking questions and sharing their own stories. There were no more crosswords or sighs of impatience. Laughter, soft and warm, became a common sound on their walks. Sparky would often do something silly, like try to catch a leaf falling from a tree, which would make them all burst into giggles. Mia's dad would sometimes pick her up and put her on his shoulders, making her feel like she was flying. Her mom would point out pretty flowers or interesting birds, and they would all stop to admire them. These walks were more than just exercise. They were special times for the family. They were moments of togetherness, of shared joy, and of quiet understanding. The bond between Mia, Sparky, and her parents grew stronger with each step. Their home was no longer a divided place but a haven of love, and their walks were a beautiful symbol of their happy, reunited family, enjoying every precious moment together.